Hello everyone and welcome to yet another Doctor Who action figure review. This is in actual fact my first ever Doctor Who action figure for 2015. It's been quite a long time since the last one I did. I cannot recall which one it was, which was the last one I did, but you can find it on my playlist anyway. And as you can see today, I am going to be taking a look at the City of Death set, which contains two figures along with some accessories as well. So as you can see, we have the Fourth Doctor and we also have Count Scaglione, who is also known as Scaroth, last of Jagaroth. So first things first, let's take a look at the Fourth Doctor. Now, of course, there have been many Fourth Doctor action figures. You will recall that I've done quite a few figure reviews of Fourth Doctor action figures, but I've never reviewed this particular variant of the Fourth Doctor. This is the variant that first came along in the Destiny of the Dalek set, which was released around a few months just before this set came by, and some of you may recall that came with the wrong scarf, so I didn't bother getting that set. But instead I got this set. He comes with the same costume, which you first see towards the end of the Key to Time season in the Power of Krull, and he wore this clothing more or less all the way through season 17, his penultimate season before he left in the following season, in season 18. I must say it's one of my favourite versions of the Fourth Doctor's costume. I wouldn't say it's my favourite, but still, I really like this costume nevertheless. As you can see, the detail is very nice. If you just pop the scarf off for a second, so you don't have to remove the head on this to remove the scarf. It actually just comes on very, very easily. Just pop it over his head, and you can see more in detail what his costume looks like. So around the shoulder areas it's been painted black, and then more or less for the coat you've got this sort of brownish colour going on here, and you can see just at the lapels here that they've been painted in a very dark brown, which matches the on-screen prop, and all around on the pockets and everything you've got bits of brown there as well. And of course the buttons on the jacket have been sculpted very nicely, and they've also sculpted this thing, and he wears this in this story. They didn't exactly didn't actually sculpt it. What I mean is they've just painted it on. I suppose it didn't bother sculpting the actual thing, seeing as it would have cost a little bit of money. I could see it makes sense to me. And the shirt underneath, it's just been painted in a plain white colour. It's not got any cravats or anything like that. That's alright. And the trousers, they're more or less the same as the trousers that have come with previous Fourth Doctor action figures from previous seasons, and the shoes look very much similar to the season 12 version, which was the first Fourth Doctor figure to come out. The head sculpt, it looks more or less the same as previous ones, as I mentioned, although they've kind of given him a little bit more of an older look, seeing as this was towards the end of Tom Baker's time as the Fourth Doctor, so it kind of made sense that the sculptors for this figure decided to give him a little bit of an older look. They've added little specks of grey in the hair. You can't really tell, but his hair isn't as black as previous releases, which matched his on-screen counterparts from the earlier seasons. And of course his scarf is nicely sculpted. I believe this is a new sculpt. It's not a repaint of the season 18 scarf, which is also just an easily removable scarf. I'm really glad that they did this, although I do believe this isn't exactly accurate. I do believe that these blue bits, I don't think they actually existed on the real costume. But one thing I really like is they've sculpted the tassels, and it's the first time where we've actually had different coloured tassels. So I really like this, and even though it's not exactly perfectly on screen accurate, I really do like this scarf sculpt, and it's one of my favourite sculpts of the Fourth Doctor scarf. It's nice to see that we've got another different scarf apart from the same old season 12 scarf which we've seen ever since 2008. So we just pop the sonic screwdriver out. It's more or less the same sonic screwdriver what we've seen on previous Fourth Doctor action figures as well. You've got the red tip, the black bit just below the tip, and then all the rest of it is silver basically, and you've got little hinges here and there. I must say this is one of my favourite sonic screwdrivers. I really love this sonic screwdriver. I really wish that they made a sonic screwdriver like this for the new series. So overall, what do I think of this figure? I think it's an absolutely brilliant figure in terms of detail. The articulation, the head can do a 360. The arms can do a 360 as well, and biceps can move in and out, and the elbows can move up and down. There's 360 at the wrist. The legs can move up and down. There's articulation in the thigh area and in the knees. There's no articulation in the feet, but I'm not really that bothered about the articulation in the feet. But overall, I think detail and articulation wise, I think it's really good. One thing that I'm a little bit, well, I'm not really that bothered about it, but one thing I would have liked is that we could have seen more of that little pattern on his right lapel. You know, the little thing what I pointed out earlier, this thing, because he only wore it in this story. I would have liked to been able to see it, because you can't really get the scarf to settle down to make it noticeable, because it just lies there automatically like that, as you can see. Just a little nitpick, but you can always take the scarf easily on and off. But overall, like I said, absolutely brilliant figure. One of the best releases of the Fourth Doctor. Another thing that I've got a little gripe with is I would have liked to have seen the collars sticking out, seeing as this is how he looked in a majority of the season 17 stories. But I suppose if they did that, it would have cost a little bit more to sculpt the collars popping out, so I'm not really overly fussed. I'm happy with this figure as it is. And here is a comparison shot of most of the Fourth Doctor figures from the character options 5-inch line. So as you can see, on the far left we have the season 12 Fourth Doctor, which was the first version of him. Then we have the duffel coat Doctor that appeared as well in his first season, season 12. We have the Pyramids of Mars version, and then here we have the Seas of Doom version. Then we have the City of Death version right here. And then we have my favourite of them all, the season 18 version. I really like that figure. So that gives you a rough idea of the evolution of the Fourth Doctor's outfit through his 7 years. The next figure in this set is Count Scaglione, who in this story was played by Julian Glover, who is of course known for playing villains. He played the villain in For Your Eyes Only, which was a Bond film, and he also played the villain in the third Indiana Jones film, The Last Crusade. So it's really nice that we've actually got a figure of Count Scaglione. It would have been alright if we just had the Scaroth head version, but I think it's absolutely brilliant that we've also got the head sculpt of Julian Glover on this figure. So if you can just have a look, I think the likeness to Julian Glover is absolutely dead on. I think they've got the likeness pretty much perfect, and I like how they've even added a couple of grey hairs here and there on top of the black. So I think the lightness, very good. You got a few lines on his head as well. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but I think the paint applications on the head sculpts, they're brilliant. I really like the lightness on this figure. I think overall the design of the costume is also very good. It's very simple and generic, but at the same time it stands out on the shelf with the rest of the figures because not many characters wear white clothing. So he more or less, all of his clothing, it's all white. His suit is white, underneath his suit is white, his trousers are white. He's got these creamy coloured shoes at the bottom, which I think are very nicely detailed, and right at the soles they're painted in this dark brown. And I like how they've like here they've given his neck piece a blue, because that's how it was in the episode, and you got a little bit of gold on there. And here I believe is his handkerchief, and that just goes into this pocket here, painted blue there as well. And again you've got a few buttons here and there and a few pockets, and that's what it looks like at the back. You've got the creases here which are very prominent on this figure, and he also has a ring on his right hand as well, his right index finger, which I think is sculpted very nicely. We just get a closer look. So that's been painted in green, and I like how they've just given the ring itself, it's like a bronze-ish, goldish colour. So I don't know if you'll be able to see that on camera. It's very, very small detail, but I like how they've done that. He comes with a gun. I must say though, the gun, it fits very, very weirdly into his hand. It's not like other figures, and that's what the gun looks like. So it looks very generic. It's just a normal gun, nothing too spectacular, and that just fits in his hand like so. And you can't really pose him that much, like trying to fire the gun, because it just looks a bit strange. So what I tend to do, I just pose him like that. Of course, the main feature about this figure though is the fact that the head is swappable, because in the story, as we all know, all those fans of this story will know that Count Scaglione is in fact just a disguise, because he is the alien threat in this story, and the true identity is Scaroth, the last of the Jagaroth. So the head just pops off very nicely. Here you've got the peg, so just put the head here, and here is Scaroth. And I must say, the detail on his head is fantastic. I really love the effects they've given onto his head. It's almost like some slime, and it's been painted in this sort of, I can't really describe it, it's like a sort of brown, not like a greyish colour, and the pupil has been painted brown, and the iris of the eye just painted white, and you got these little fins here. That's how he looked in the story, and the overall wash, it's like a sort of gloss. Makes sense, because that's how the actual head turned out to be. But one thing I find a bit of a pain, the head is a bit of a pain to put on. You can just about fit it on. Finally, after all that fiddling, I finally managed to put the head on. It's a little bit difficult putting the actual Scaroth head onto the body of this figure. It's more easier to put Count Scaglione's head on this figure. So if you want to pose him as Scaroth, then be advised that it might be quite a pain to put the head on this figure. But I must say, the head on this figure, it looks a little bit irking at first, but you get used to it after you've had it on your shelf for quite a while. The irking thing about this, the head looks a little bit too small for the body, but I think the reason why they've done this is because Count Scaglione's head, of course, it was actually a mask, so technically his head should be bigger than this head. So what they've done, they've kind of like downscaled this head to make it look like this is the mask of this head. If you've seen the story, then you'll know what I might be talking about, or I might be just completely talking complete nonsense. But there you go. I think, though, it does work. I think the sculpting works and everything. I think, though, the bad thing about the little downscaling on the head, as you could tell, it's quite a bit of a pain to put onto the peg in the neck. But eventually you can put it in. It is doable, but it's just a bit of a pain. I think that's because the head sculpt of Scaroth himself is a bit smaller. Now, the articulation on this figure, again, it's quite similar to the Fourth Doctor in this set. The head, well, on Scaroth's head, he can't really turn. On Scaglione's head, he can turn the full 360. All he can do with the Scaroth head is just turn a little bit from side to side. That's all you can do. If you want to try and turn it 360, you probably end up popping the head back off if you want to swap back. The arms, again, they can do a 360. The biceps can turn. They can do a 360, like so. The elbows can move up and down. The wrists can do a 360. And one thing to point out, the wrists, they feel really loose on this figure. They feel really loose. The legs can move up and down. The hips can turn as well. I forgot to mention that it can also do that on the Fourth Doctor figure. And the thighs can do a 360. And there's no articulation at the feet, but I'm not really that bothered about it, to be honest. So, yeah, the articulation, pretty much standard for this figure. So, now let's take a look at the main accessory that comes in this set, and it is, of course, the Mona Lisa painting. Or is it? Now, I must say, the detail on this is very good. They've just used a photo of the Mona Lisa painting by Leonardo da Vinci, and they've given this nice frame. They've painted the frame gold. It's just made out of this plastic, and they've painted it gold. They've given all these patterns, very nice patterns, and they've painted a little bit of black to give it that sort of dirty look, to make it look like it's a couple of centuries old. So I quite like this. On the back, they've sculpted the wood on the back of this as well, which I quite like. Again, they've painted this brown and black to give it that wood texture. They've painted a few lines here and there. One thing that pisses me off, though, they've added this CE thing, but I suppose they had to plonk that somewhere, didn't they? And it just says character options at the bottom. You may not be able to see that on camera, but it's quite a bit annoying. It says made in China, even though we all know that the Mona Lisa was made in Italy. If you hold this up to the light, you may be able to see there's a little message, and it says, "This is fake." And you can use your ultraviolet sonic screwdriver for this. I've not got an ultraviolet sonic screwdriver, so I can't really show you. I don't really want to film this in the dark because the quality might not come out that great. So I think that's a very nice accessory. I like to lean it on Scaroth because he was the owner of these fake paintings in this story. So I think that overall the Mona Lisa accessory. It's a nice bonus to this set and adds to this set as well, I'd say. Now, if you're a fan of the Tom Baker era, and if you're a fan of this particular story, City of Death, then I would get this set. You could easily get this set on websites on the internet. I'm not really sure where you can get this now, and I didn't actually buy this set. My ex-girlfriend got it me. That's back when she actually gave a shit about me before she went off and gone off with someone else, but that's a story for another time. So thank you very much for watching this review of the City of Death set. Highly recommended set. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for more action figure reviews by me, the Obsesstuvian 95. Have a great day.
Don't forget to click the link below to subscribe to me, James Croft, aka the Obsesstuvian 95. Have a great day.